Hello everyone. So in this video we're working with the Krupp's 21 centimeter field gun. As you can see, I've already got it painted in its camouflage colors and almost fairly completed on the weathering. A few more steps to do right here. So I'm returning back to the oils. Everything so far has been done with oils. And I'm just going to make a few touch-ups to areas before I start putting on the gun shield. So here I've got raw umber. I'm just kind of going right around some of these clamp plates here just to add a little bit of definition. There's already a light mud base on this, so this is just going to make a little bit of depth of color to this dirty muddy area, places where grime would collect naturally. My painting setup is really very simple. I generally use two brushes, a number 1 round brush, and I think it's a number 1 flat brush. It's actually an old flat brush. It's pretty splayed out there. As you can see, it's not very crisp. Um, Paint is put on almost nearly dry, just with enough thinner just to get it to move a bit, and then a completely dry brush for the most part when I do the feathering out with the flat brush. As you can see, I grab a little bit of extra paint and even dab off the excess thinners or oils onto the napkin on my desk and just touch around the areas where I want to add some more concentrated color. Just working those colors in, those little nooks and crannies. Now with the flat brush, again, a dry brush, and then I unload the excess paint that I might be feathering away onto the napkin just to keep it nice and clean. I'm just looking for very soft effects right here. I had done some heavier weathering on the lower part of the gun carriage here, especially behind where the wheels are located. A lot of speckling and splattering in that area just to kind of build up some texture and some color. So now I've lost a lot of that definition of those corners and the areas in there. So I'm just going back again with the raw umber, adding a little bit into those crevices and creases and just bringing those shadows back a bit. Again, small dabs of paint with the brush and then feathered back with a clean flat brush. I continue to work with the raw umber, adding those shadows around the details and adding some of that definition back in. It also tends to unify a lot of that speckling that was done earlier. That looked pretty rough, as if it was just speckled on there. So this all kind of ties it all back together. My idea for this weathering is that the carriage itself and the lower areas of this piece will be heavier and darker, as if it was, in the mud and such, which of course they were. And then as you go up the piece, it's going to be less heavy in the weathering, less darker. Feel like I'm starting to get close to that point where it's like what's to do next, and that's pretty much my indication of it's about time to stop, at least in this area, and start moving on to something different. So I look for different opportunities around the model just to continue this theme of adding the definition. Again, it's very subtle at this point because a lot of work has been done before this video was shot. So we're really just at the last 20% or so of the weathering. Moving around to the front of the gun, again, these are all areas that once I put the gun shield on, I'm not going to be able to reach, so I'm just trying to finish up some of this. There's some pivot points in here, so I just wanted to add a little bit of extra grease and grime in these areas. The base is basically 502's engine grease, and then I like to add a little bit of ochre and some of the red colors into it, like there's a warm red I think that's used on there as well, and just kind of blend them in. It gives it a nice greasy, dirty, gritty type of appearance. So as you can see, the gun shield has been added, and that means that we can add the final details like this little lever mechanism here on the side, these little crank handles and such. These pieces, these parts, this crank handle hasn't been, except for base painted, has had no weathering at all done to it at all. So I've got to catch this back up with the rest of the models. So right now we'll start with some light mud, 502 Abteilung Oils, just kind of mapping out where I'm going to put some grime and dirt on this. Along the bottom where the wheels might kick up some spray and such as it was being moved, and just in all the little nooks and crannies. And just kind of keep adding to it. It's basically almost pure paint right now, very dry brush, no thinner. And then I come back with a completely dry flat brush and just kind of feather it out a little bit. And I'll do this a couple of times just to kind of expand those fields a little bit as I move forward. That's a little heavier wash on that one there, just to let it capillary a little bit into those cracks, and then push it back a little bit and clean it off. So on this metal shaft here, which is basically a raw metal surface, was initially base painted with AK's lead gray from their acrylic line there. And then what I like to do on my metal surfaces and things like this is to give it just a little hint of oxidation, not necessarily rust, but just a little hint of discoloration. So for this I'm using the warm red and a little bit of the primer red from the Abteilung range. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video now, just adding a little bit of the dark raw umber over the light mud. Just to let everyone know that I plan on doing a lot more of these videos, but this is all very brand new to me, so I'm still learning quite a bit. Every moment, every second I'm learning something either about the camera, the lighting, or how to edit these videos. I understand they're pretty raw right now and pretty shaky, but things are improving. I have some new gear that I think will help along the way that's coming next week. And as you can see here, I've got some little parting shots that I did in my light booth. Talk to you soon.